Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm recording this in readiness for Valentine's Day 2022. It's a really interesting day for me, Valentine's Day, a day that we celebrate love. Personally, I have a little bit of a kind of, well, why do we need a day to celebrate? Because when we love people and importantly we love ourselves, that should be something that happens all of the time. But I'm guessing the card companies and the flower companies and the chocolate companies love to have a day where we all go out and spend exorbitant amounts of money on things. Anyway, that aside, what I wanted to come on and talk to you about today is actually what I believe is the true root of creating an incredible relationship with somebody. It absolutely, in my experience and from everything I know about the mind, starts with our relationship with ourselves. Now, I've been on quite the journey myself with my relationship with me, and it's in kind of healing my own relationship with myself. And that's quite a strong word, but I'll share why I use that. That's how I have created incredible relationships in my life. And prior to kind of healing my relationship with myself, I had no idea that it was how I was relating to myself that was causing basically for me to have lousy relationships up until that point. So what happens is things happen to us when we're younger, and it doesn't need to be anything particularly traumatic. But what happens is we learn that for some reason we're inadequate. Now, when I say we learn, it's based on how people interact with us. It can be really small things. So I've shared before that one of my kind of feelings of unworthiness was as a result of what I saw as a relationship that I had with my dad versus my dad's relationship with my brother. I took their close relationship and how much my dad loved spending time with my brother, doing boys things, sports, football, all of those things. I took that to mean that I was unworthy in some way. It absolutely was not true. And there's a previous vlog that I've recorded about that, where you can go back and see how that manifested in my life. But it wasn't true. But I was young when this happened. You know, I probably was from 4 or 5 onwards, and we take things on in our childhood and we make them kind of truths, and that's how we behave in the other areas of our life. So I took on the belief that I was unworthy, that I wasn't good enough, all of these kind of untruths, but I believed them in my being that they were true. And I started to behave that they were true. So when you believe something and it's held within your subconscious mind, because that is where it's stored from such a young age, you're not aware that that's what's happening. And you then behave as though that is a truth. So all of the decisions that I've made around kind of relationships and things that I've learned as I've got older have been with the kind of lens of I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy. So relationships that I had up until about the age of 30 were pretty pants, frankly. With the benefit of hindsight, I'm about 15 years older than that now, I can see that what happened in those romantic relationships were a direct reflection of how I viewed myself. Now, I was no doormat. I was no wallflower kind of, you know, meekly showing up in relationships. I am a strong person, and I always have been, sometimes a bit too strong, and that was kind of covering the fact that I felt unworthy and lacking in lots of ways. But it wasn't that these people necessarily walked all over me, but it was how I allowed myself to be treated. And I take 100% full responsibility for that, because that was what I was creating unknowingly at that time. This isn't me coming on and saying I blame all of those people that I had lousy relationships with in the past. I can completely see how those relationships went the way that they did because of the person who I was at the time, as a result of the inadequacies and the feelings of lack of self-worth, low self-esteem, minimal self-love. All of those things meant I was being that way. I could only attract somebody that would see those things as true. And therefore, over the fullness of the relationships, even those that started out really well, basically went down the pan because I didn't have the love, the regard, the self-esteem for myself for things to happen any other way. Now, what happened to me, I'm very happily married and have been for, mental arithmetic, 14 years, I think, maybe 13 perhaps, something around there. And I don't worry about the fact that I can't remember how long I've been married. That doesn't say anything about my relationship. It just means I'm not very good at maths. I've been very happily married for a long time. What happened prior to me meeting my now husband, I had a few years on my own. At the time, I did not want those years on my own. I'd broken up from a very trying relationship, and I was kind of done with relationships. That said, innately, I kind of really wanted to be with somebody, and life, because it sets us up for success, for whatever reason, believed at that time that it was right for me to be on my own. I think, with the exception of kind of a couple of months, few weeks dating certain people, I was on my own for just over 3 years, and it was the best thing that could ever have happened to me. It didn't feel that way at the time. It was the time when I was kind of in my late 20s. Quite a few of my friends were going and getting married, settling down, having families, and I was kind of the token single person. If you've been there, I can really empathise. However, it really was the best thing that could ever happen to me. For those of you that know, I actually am an amateur horse rider. I got back to horses in that time because I had the headspace to go, hey, what do I really want? I wasn't rushing around worrying about a significant other, trying to please them and make everything great. I actually had the space, which I didn't think I wanted early on in this point, to really get to know me and really realise who I am, what I wanted. And that was really the start of my healing journey. So said ex-boyfriend exited, stage left. I was fairly devastated because I believed he was the one. I can look back now and go, oh my God, if I'd have got what I wanted, there's no way I would be the person that I am now, doing the things that I am now. I really do believe that life was like, yeah, he's not the one. Exit him, stage left. That was exactly what I needed in that moment. So thank you, universe. And it's just one example of why I trust that what's meant to happen is going to happen. So I had these 3 years on my own, or 3 and a bit years on my own, I can't remember exactly, where I lived on my own. I was living in my second house that I owned, and I'd always wanted to live by myself because I felt it was really important to kind of be independent. One of the things that I noticed with my mum and a few of her friends growing up, people stayed in relationships because they didn't want to live on their own. Either financially they couldn't afford to, or they were worried because they never had lived on their own. I really took that on. I was quite savvy, I think, as a youngster, and thought, yeah, I want to live on my own before I live with anybody significantly. And it really served me in good stead. And even though there were times, particularly in my sort of late 20s, where I felt a little bit like lost because friends were settling down, I'd kind of gone past the major going out and partying phase. When I really kind of felt into spending that time in my home that I'd created, I really loved it. And I I sort of got to a stage where I really enjoyed my time to myself rather than fearing it, which I think a few years earlier, if I'd have known that's what was going to happen, I'd have been a bit like, oh my God. But it really was the making of me. It's where I started to understand what I wanted, what was important to me, because I didn't have anybody else around me from a sort of significant other perspective where I had to make decisions or pretend to be something that I wasn't. That was really the start of my own healing journey and my relationship with myself. Like I said, I got back into horses. Such a great mirror for how you're feeling. My first horse, Bella, who I still have now, she turned 22 this year. She was a real mirror for me to show me that I was not great emotionally. I was judging myself a lot. I didn't love myself. And she was a young horse at the time, and she had her own issues because she hadn't had a great start in life. And it was challenging for us, and I had to really dig deep to get past these challenges. And I reiterate, it was the best thing that could ever happen to me. That got me onto the path to really loving, caring and respecting myself, and that then was the precursor to me meeting my now husband. I think I got back to horses in late 2006, and he and I met in early 2007. When you are operating from a place of self-love, self-respect, and really valuing yourself, what shows up is different. But if you have the undercurrent, and this is where it gets tricky because we don't always know, but if you have the undercurrent of you're not worthy, you don't love yourself, you judge yourself, then that's what you're going to attract, is people that behave and treat you in a way that's less than what you deserve. Because when you love and respect yourself, there's no way you're going to put up with somebody treating you like pants, because why would you? You've already created a great life for yourself. So this was a really big learning for me in terms of two things. One, what I thought I wanted, the ex-boyfriend believing he was the one and he exited stage left. That was actually a really amazing thing to happen, even though in the time it felt the pits, honestly. And then secondly, that having that time enabled me really to get to know me. And by getting to know me and getting to understand what I wanted and what was important to me outside of any other relationship, relationships can be great. They can also take up a lot of headspace and cause a lot of drama in your life. When it's just you get the real opportunity to get to know yourself. So if you're watching this and you're thinking of either ending a relationship, or you found yourself single and you're attaching a negative narrative to that, let me tell you, it's actually a blessing. This is your opportunity to get to know yourself and really love yourself. Of course, there may be times when you feel lonely. There is no more lonely place than being in a wrong relationship. So make plans for doing things with your friends, or even just treating yourself. I've got a client of mine who's in her mid-20s, and she just took herself out for a date for the day. She's got a very busy job. She gets one day off a week. She took herself around the city. She went for lunch on her own. She went to view beautiful places that have got really historical meanings that she'd never had the opportunity to do that before. I wish that I had the capacity to do that when I was in my mid-20s. I really feel like the way in which we show up for ourselves gives great opportunity to then what we're putting out into the universe as to what is possible for us and what we're a match for. And that's the really important thing. So this isn't about, oh, well, you know, when you love yourself and everything becomes amazing and life is all unicorn and rainbows. Of course it's not. Things still happen, but when you love yourself, value yourself and respect yourself, there's a baseline there with which you're not prepared to allow. This is all about boundaries. So, you know, if you start dating somebody and within about 3 weeks, you know, they are rubbish at returning your calls, or there are more technical terms for this these days from what I understand, but I am not down with the kids. But there's things that you won't be available for that, you know, 10 years ago you might have just accepted. That is a slippery slope. I would love to go back and tell my former self the things that I know now. I say that, I believe I'm absolutely where I'm meant to be. But this is why I'm sharing this message, because when you do love yourself and when you really prioritize yourself, different things happen in your life. As Brits, it can seem very like, oh, you love yourself. Oh, check you out. What an ego. It's not about that. It's not about being better than someone else. It's not about being more superior to anybody. It's about the innate true love that you feel for yourself. And when you have that, it's about then what shows up in your life as a result. The challenging part can be, you may not know that you have these feelings of unworthiness or lack of self-esteem or lack of self-love consciously, because they're held in the subconscious mind. So things to notice are, do you judge people? If you judge other people, it's usually a sign of something that you don't want to see in yourself. So just really notice that. Notice your self-talk. When something goes wrong or not how you want it to go, what are you saying to yourself in your mind? To be aware of these things, you need to slow down. So taking time to be quiet with yourself and allow whatever is going to come up in your mind to come up. Really notice, because these are where the gold lies. You have the opportunity to notice, oh, hey, I'm judging people because I think they're lazy, or I think they're spending too much money. These are insights into the things that you're perhaps fearful yourself. This is the really powerful work that I do with clients, getting underneath what these narratives are. And recently, and I've been doing mindset work for a number of years now, just a couple of weekends ago, I found a block that I was entirely unaware of, and I spent a weekend releasing it with all the tools that I have. So I'm in this work, I'm doing it every day with clients, and yet there are still layers for me to actually release. A bit like a snake that sheds its skin, it's the same principle. Everybody has greatness within them. Everybody has capacity to have incredible relationships. It's about releasing all of the crap, frankly, that's on top of it, to actually see those things. There will be, I guarantee you, things that happened when you were younger that your mind has made mean something that is impacting how you behave today. It's in understanding, getting to the bottom of what those are, being able to release them, that gives you the opportunity to love yourself, create a great relationship with yourself. It's the longest and most important relationship you're ever going to have. That enables you to have incredible romantic relationships, relationship with family and friends and colleagues and all of those things. For me, with clients as well. This work really matters. If you want to know more and you'd like to get peeling that onion for yourself and really understanding why until now you haven't been able to create what you're looking for, this will be the reason. Get in touch, I can help. You can email me, Nikki, N-I-C-K-Y, @beyourbestYet.co.uk, and you can also find me on socials, Facebook and Instagram @beyourbestYet. Feel free to drop me a DM. And if you've got any questions, send me an email or pop anything in the comments and I'll come back to you.